met him when my brother-in-law was also in the army, and he was travelling to Berlin on the train, and got chatting to Ray and found out that his recent girlfriend had finished with him.
He said, my girlfriend's got a sister. He said, I'll get her to write to you, and he did. Well, it all started from there, so you're going back a long time now.
And so he brought a photograph home and said, well, here you are, my friend needs someone to write to him, so how about you? At first I was all against it and said I wouldn't do it, but then I felt sorry for him and I decided, well, I'd write as a pen friend.
At least once a week. Sometimes twice, unless you was on ops. If you're on ops in the jungle, obviously you couldn't write. If you was in the jungle for 3 weeks, you had 3 or 4 letters waiting for you when you came out of the jungle.
It was only once every week or so, and it was interesting. It was someone going somewhere that I'd never heard of before, like going to Berlin, and it was very interesting, and just carried on writing as friends. Right
through your army service, your day finished, or your working day finished at 5 or 6 o'clock, unless you were on duty, guard duty or anything like that. And that was your leisure time. If you wanted to spend an hour writing home, I kept in touch with my mother. My father never wrote to me. He wasn't the sort that wrote. Well, I wasn't really at that time, but I soon got into it, and it becomes an habit, way of life.
Well, I didn't really know much about him, and I'd only recently left school in the summer and started at work. Never had a boyfriend before, and this was the nearest I got to it. As soon as his letter came and I read it and sat down that evening, I mean, there was no television, we didn't listen to the radio much in those days, and I used to sit down and spend most of the night thinking of what I could write to tell him. Well, that November he came home from Berlin on leave, and as no one was on the telephone much in those days, we must have written to one another and arranged to meet in Coventry. And he caught the bus from Bedworth and I caught the bus from Bradford. We arranged to meet at the bottom of the town. And I got off the bus and there he was standing in the doorway. Greeted one another like long lost friends and started walking. I don't think we knew where we were walking at the time, but we walked and walked and talked. And walked all the way around Coundon, and the time got by and I felt it was time to go home, and we walked up to Radford and I said, well, you better come in and meet my mum and dad, because they had heard all about him with me writing to him. He did have perhaps a few weekend leaves, and I think he had a whole week leave. But then, as I say, he left for Malaya in the August. So, no, we haven't really seen a lot of one another.
You can explain a lot in a letter, but when you're not there face to face, if you put it down on paper and somebody reads it, they take that for as done. Whatever you put down, that's said and done.
It was one of those things, it just sort of happened. You just went with the flow, like with him saying, like, about him being in Malaya all that time. I'd been writing to him, he was going, I was just I was that sort of person. He went to Malaya, I knew he'd be gone for 2 years. I met other boys along the way, I went dancing with them and that, and we came home and they said, oh, it's been a lovely evening. I said, yes, thank you very much. And they said, can I see you again? And I used to say, well, no, I don't want to get serious with anybody because I've already got a boyfriend. So they said, well, where is he? I said, Malaya. And he said, well, when's he coming home? I said, oh, another 12 months. And they thought I was totally batty. I think everybody did, but well, that's just me. That's how I am. If I say I'll do something, I just stick to it, you know. While he was away, yeah, we grew more fond of one another, and you just look forward to the day when he was coming home. As he said, he was on the boat and we couldn't communicate. I knew he'd left, and it was quite a long trip. I had no idea exactly when he would arrive home, and I realised, like, the last week, every day I kept on listening out and wondering if that would be the day.
I didn't go to see Marguerite the first day. I think I waited till the evening of the next day because I knew she'd be at work, you see. And I hadn't been able to write because we were on the boat. So I just turned up on the doorstep like a bad penny.
And then eventually one day I came home with my mother and we walked up the entry and there was a bike propped against the wall. And she said, oh, it looks like we've got visitors. And when we got near, I looked at the bike and I recognised it, and I suddenly shrieked, I know whose it is! And ran into the house, and my younger brother was there and he must have let Ray in, and just threw myself into his arms.
throw to bits as I got back. All in one piece. Some of them didn't.
And then we had a word with my mother for a while, and perhaps a cup of tea, and then we put our coats on and we went out and we started our usual walking and talking.